Bitcoin continues to chop around ahead of FOMC. We just pumped above 117K and now we are back to the low 116K region. In today's video, we'll be talking about what we could potentially expect into FOMC and shortly after. If you enjoy the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. Without further ado, let's jump right into the video. We are now under 7 hours away from FOMC, and in today's video, I'll also be going over what ChatGPT says about what could happen with Bitcoin after we get the 25 basis point rate cut. Just a reminder here, you probably already know this, but there is now a 96% chance of getting a 25 basis point rate cut with a 4% chance of getting that 50 basis point rate cut. If we get a 50 basis point rate cut, I do think that the markets will absolutely soar. Now, currently, what are we seeing with Bitcoin? You can see that we got a pretty significant pump to the top of our 8-year resistance, which was right around 117.4K. Now, if I zoom out on this chart, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. If we connect the highs since all the way back in 2017, you can see that Bitcoin rarely manages to break above and actually stay above this resistance line. So if I zoom back in here, you can see that more recently, we got a pretty nice pump on the 12-hour time frame, bringing us to the top of this range, and over the past couple hours, we did get rejected. If you've been watching the channel, you know that we've been constantly talking about the liquidity that there was to be grabbed around 117K up to $118,000. And right now you can see that we did grab a little bit of that liquidity, but there is still quite a lot of liquidity right below $118,000, as there are also some longs starting to pile into the market when we made this move. Now, zooming out a little bit further, taking a look at the Bitcoin exchange liquidation map, as we normally do, on the 1-day time frame, you can see that more longs have actually piled into the market compared to shorts. On the 7-day time frame, you can also see that more longs have piled into the market compared to shorts. And on the 30-day time frame, this gap is starting to widen quite significantly. Remember what I told you, when we have 3 to 5 times more long or short liquidation leverage to be grabbed and we're in a range, that's typically when we go and grab it. Now, right now you can see that on the right, there is around 7.61 cumulative short liquidation leverage, and on the left here, there is around 18.4 billion cumulative long liquidation leverage. So we are getting close to that 3x, but we are not quite there yet. Now, in yesterday's video, I talked about grabbing some upside liquidity before we potentially roll over, which has been my base case. Because of the move from the bottom not being impulsive here for Bitcoin, I actually think that there's a chance that we go ahead and revisit some lower levels here. Now, let's take a look at this Bitcoin chart, which I wanted to show you. You can see that we kept on bouncing from the lows after getting confirmation at the point of control from the previous range, the bull market support band, and the bottom of this existing range. Sorry to ramble on about this. I just need to repeat myself because I've been talking about this in my past few videos, but you can see here that it's very clear. Bitcoin did get a nice move from the low, and my projection, as you can probably tell from my last video and my ugly drawings, is that we will likely end up rolling over. Now, I still think that Bitcoin can climb up and grab that upside liquidity, baiting a lot more longs in the market. So there is entirely a chance here, even though we discussed in my previous video that hitting 117 was very likely, there is still a chance that we make it to this area, the point of control. Now, as you know, I am in a short position. I've been pretty vocal about it, but I am also in a Bitcoin long position from the lows as a hedge. We entered around $110,000, and if you're in my free premium group, you know that already. But the point here is I do think that we will be seeing a little bit of a more significant rejection at some point in time within this zone. Now, if we don't, what would be my invalidation? If we start to get daily closes above $118,000, multiple daily closes that is, it's at that point that my trade would be invalidated and I would let my long continue to run. But we are undoubtedly entering a very volatile period in the market, and my base case has also been that Bitcoin dominance will likely increase and we will not be getting that altcoin season that all of your favorite influencers have been talking about. Don't get me wrong, in this downtrend, in my free premium group, we have been trading altcoins with leverage, longing them and making some very, very nice profits. But in terms of spot holding, I have not shifted my strategy whatsoever. I've literally just been holding Bitcoin and Ethereum. I think that what happens with Bitcoin dominance, as I've reiterated so many times over the past few weeks when everyone was calling for altcoin season here, is a similar situation to what we saw here. And that would be holding support here, and then eventually we crawl up higher, likely between 60 to 63% Bitcoin dominance. Now, I do think that it would be a pretty bold call to say that we're going to make a new high for Bitcoin dominance, but you never know. Once we get up here, depending on the market conditions, this may actually materialize. Let's see how it plays out, but right now I'm not calling for that. So, Bitcoin, you can see continuing to just chop around ahead of FOMC. There's going to be so much volatility. And if you are not already positioned and you don't have some kind of bias, I honestly would just sit on your hands. Even if, just to reiterate, we have a correction, which I have been anticipating, and we go ahead and get a bounce, I think that this bounce over here would likely be more impulsive, and then we can have the last leg of this bull market cycle. I know I'm repeating myself over the past few days, so if you're watching the channel, apologies for that, but I need to make my point extremely clear because nothing has really changed. I'm happy with my positioning, and I just want to see how this plays out. Haven't sold any spot at all, Bitcoin nor Ethereum. Now, I think that Bitcoin could likely top out this cycle above $130,000, although I will start dollar cost averaging out of my positions, my spot positions that is, when Bitcoin is above 125 once more. Looking at the Bitcoin spot ETFs, you can see that over the past few days, we also had a few hundred millions of inflows. However, Ethereum paints a little bit of a different picture, seeing most recently yesterday, we got 60 million worth of outflows. Now, I wanted to also talk about the ETH Bitcoin chart because you can see that this has been demonstrated along with the spot ETFs. Lately, over the past couple weeks, ETH Bitcoin has indeed been struggling a little bit here. And so this was a possibility after getting a very, very nice move from the lows. So I also ran the numbers by ChatGPT to see what happens to Bitcoin when we get that 25 basis point rate cut. Now the sample size is relatively small, but you can see here, here's the compact table of Bitcoin percentage returns after 25 basis point rate cuts. We measured 1 day, 7 day, 30 day, and 90 day. So back in 2019, here we have an increase, 1 day, 2.7%, 7 day, 10%, then 30 day down 14%, then 90 day down 22%. This was the first sample size. Then we have the second one, 2.4%, minus 20% over the next 7 days, minus 23% over that month, and then minus 21% over 90 days. But here we have a little bit more bullishness in the market. We had a little bit of a drawdown here back in 2019, late 2019, and then in the following week we saw an 11% increase, but over 30 days, negative 18%, and then you have 90 days, an additional 21.8% increase. Same thing over and over. Now, what you'll notice with these numbers is it doesn't really paint us a clear picture. You can see here that here are the totals. 1 day later, 3 out of 5 pumped. 1 week later, 3 out of 5 pumped. 1 month later, 2 out of 5 pumped. 3 months later, 2 out of 5 pumped. So this, with this tiny sample size, would actually suggest that maybe we get a pump in the short term and then we retrace. But for me personally, I have been seeing the overall sentiment in the market, and I still think that we may pump into FOMC and then get a little bit of a drawdown afterwards before the last leg of this bull market cycle. That's at least how I'm currently trading this market. And that sums up today's very, very quick video. Remember, if you want to join my free premium trading group where we've been longing and shorting this market and making consistent profits over time, you have the first link in my description down below. All you have to do is click that link. It'll bring you to Telegram. You DM me the word premium, and I would be happy to onboard you in my group. I know this was a quick one, but not much has actually changed. I'm just waiting to see how things materialize after the rate cuts. Will we get a significant pump and continuation? Will we get a little bit of a pump and then a dump? Or will we just dump immediately? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear what you think. If you enjoy the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe, and I'll see you in the aftermath in tomorrow's video.